With hours left in the Trump presidency, the administration's island is low on survivors, folks who have Energizer bunnied through all 4 years of the chaos, the revolving door spinning faster than a pinwheel in a tornado. We'll show you who they are, but first we note the other participants in the tumultuous marathon that has been Trump's time in the White House, most of whom did not even come close to the finish line. In the 1 Kilometer Club, Michael Flynn, who didn't last a month before he resigned, then was charged, then convicted, then pardoned. Anthony Scaramucci, who holds the record, and perhaps we are generous to say that he made it a kilometer, it was more like a furlong. Scaramucci lasted only 11 days as White House communications director.
I've seen this guy throw a dead spiral through a tire. I've seen him at Madison Square Garden with a top coat on. He's standing in the key and he's hitting foul shots and swishing them, okay? He sinks 3-foot putts. I don't see this guy as a guy that's ever under siege. The president's a winner, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to do a lot of winning.
He made the country sicker, he made it weaker, and he made it poorer, and it's time for him to leave the stage.
The next group stopped running this race somewhere around the first water table.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
Sean Spicer, Trump's first press secretary, lasted only 6 months and then turned up on Dancing with the Stars. Secretary of Health and Human Services Tom Price, he lasted a bit longer, 7 months, resigning after scrutiny of his private jet travel. And then there are the folks who hit the wall at mile 23, mile 24, and in some cases, mile marker 25.9. Kellyanne Conway, who famously declared the White House delivers alternative facts, the new synonym for lies, Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, and Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, who stayed through every controversy, every tweet, but decided to bounce after thousands of Trump supporters violently attacked the Capitol with just 2 weeks to go in his presidency. Attorney General Bill Barr spent 2 years championing Trump, but when he said there was no evidence of election fraud, he left just before the riot. And in the last 24 hours, he has blamed Trump's rhetoric directly for the insurrection.
Perhaps the debate about the integrity of the election was the final straw.
I think that was the thing that precipitated the riots on the Hill.
And finally, as Destiny's Child once declared, leaving this game like some survivors, son-in-law Jared Kushner stayed after being assigned virtually every task for every hot-button issue. Daughter Ivanka is still there, although frankly it's not quite clear what she did on a daily basis during her stint. And Stephen Miller outlasted every advisor who Trump eventually turned against.
The poem that you're referring to that was added later is not actually part of the original Statue of Liberty, but more fundamentally, the history. But more fundamentally, the history.
That does not represent.
I'm saying that. I'm saying that the notion. I'm saying the notion that the. I'm saying the notion.
I'm sorry.
No,
Jim,
let me ask you a question.
That sounds like some national park revisionism.
It shows your cosmopolitan bias, and I just want to say.
It sounds like you're trying to engineer the racial and ethnic flow of people into this country.
Jim.
Also going the distance, Mike Pompeo from the CIA to the State Department, and Ben Carson, who served as Housing and Urban Development Secretary all 4 years, during which he took heat for alleged transphobic comments. He denied a Washington Post report that he raised concern about, quote, big hairy men entering women's homeless shelters, saying political correctness would destroy the nation. And he also blamed the purchase of some very expensive furniture for his office on his wife.
They showed us some catalogs. The prices were beyond what I wanted to pay. I made it clear that that just didn't seem right to me. And, you know, I left it with my wife.
Also staying in the race, Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, his tenure most notable for trying to add a citizenship question to the census and some questionable comments on TV, including this one defending how prices would go up on products because of the president's tariffs.
Well, I just bought this can today at a 7-Eleven down here, and the price was $1.99. So who in the world is going to be too bothered by 0.6 of a cent?
People on a budget would be bothered, Wilbur, which would be most Americans. Perhaps, though, the most notable survivor is Vice President Mike Pence.
The world saw once again that President Donald Trump stands without apology as leader of the free world.
I say thank you for keeping your word, Mr. President.
Mr. President, you put the health of America first. I always tell people that to know President Trump is to know someone whose word is his bond.
After years of over-the-top praise of his boss, the president put a target on Pence's back, falsely telling the world that Pence could overturn the election at the certification of the Electoral College vote before Congress, and privately and publicly pressuring him to do it, even though he didn't have the constitutional authority to do so. Rioters came to the Capitol, and who were they looking for? Pence, according to the Washington Post, escaped the Senate chamber 1 minute before the rioters breached it, but in the exhausting end.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
The majority of American voters decided they wouldn't run another marathon, deciding that one was enough.
Just to hear the sounds that moving makes can induce anxiety, but when the moving trucks are in front of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, well, reality just parked in front of the White House. Those who are anti-Trump instantly became pro-moving. Woo-hoo! Sure, some have claimed moving is more stressful than even divorce, but for Trump opponents, it's, oh, happy day all the way. Watching empty boxes go by, crates ready to be filled with belongings, framed mementos of an administration whose time is up, inspiring digs like, I hope they brought enough moving blankets to protect Trump's fragile ego.
I have never found a moving truck so moving.
Moving trucks are being monitored all the way to Mar-a-Lago, where a couple of massive ones were spotted as stuff was unloaded into the club. The move is leaving mockery in its wake. President Trump at the wheel of a golf cart towing a U-Haul. When that bust of Lincoln was spotted being moved out of the White House, critics were quick to suspect the worst.
He's going to use that as a hood ornament on his golf cart.
But the White House Historical Association confirmed they are confident items being removed from the West Wing are being handled appropriately. Pieces are loaned to each new administration and then returned. And don't have a bird over that stuffed pheasant. That's the wife of Chief of Staff Mark Meadows packing up his personal mementos. Egged on by comedian Samantha Bee, who turned a departing framed photo into a whiteboard so the internet could have at it. The image was recycled, from young Donald Trump in a bathrobe to bare-chested Geraldo Rivera to hair as turbulent as the man at Crowns. Instead of a second inauguration on Capitol Hill, there was this hillbillies reference to moving.
So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is.
Make that Mar-a-Lago, that is.
Forbes issued a scathing warning to companies all over the United States this past weekend, telling them that if you hire any of these former Trump cabinet officials, we're just going to assume from that point forward that everything that comes out of your company is an absolute lie. Now, we all know Forbes is the paper of repute, the magazine of repute for the Fortune 500 crowd, right? I mean, after all, that's the Forbes Fortune 500. They're the ones who do that. They're the ones who you want to suck up to if you are a corporation. You want to make it on their list. You want to make it to their parties. You want to be their friends. And here they are telling the most powerful corporations in the United States, if you go anywhere near these people, we're done with you. Here is actually what was said in the article that they posted. Forbes will assume that everything your company or firm talks about is a lie. We're going to scrutinize, double check, investigate with the same skepticism we'd approach a Trump tweet if you hire these individuals. And that includes people like Betsy DeVos, Elaine Chao, Mick Mulvaney, Stephanie Grisham, Sarah Matthews, Matthew Pottinger, and of course the usual suspects of Kayleigh McEnany, Kellyanne Conway, hell, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Sean Spicer, if he's still kicking around out there. Basically, if you spent time working with Donald Trump, Forbes is telling their connections in the business community, don't hire these people. Now, I have no sympathy for any of these people. I don't care if they don't ever work another day in their lives. There's another group of people, though, inside the White House who are also struggling to find work for essentially the same reason. Those are the average, everyday White House staffers. According to reports over the last few weeks, these staffers have been unable to secure jobs. A lot of them have been unable to secure interviews at other places. Like, nobody wants to hire anyone who worked for the Trump administration, whether you were a cabinet official, sitting at the head of a major government department, or if you're just the coffee boy. It doesn't matter. You worked for Trump. You have that stink on you. You have the taint on you. You are stained with Trumpism.